It is June 14th and it's 2021 and it's 6 o'clock or 6:04, and I am starting the committee of the whole meeting for the Groton Board of Ed. And the first order of business is the approval of the committee of the whole meeting minutes of May 17th, 2021. And I would take thank you, Rosemary. Do I have a second? I've got Andrea, unless she is swatting flies. Is there any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes of May 17th, 2020, all signify by saying yes.
Aye. Yes.
Or whatever. Nay. Abstain, and that motion has carried. So we have actually a rather large meeting tonight, and so don't get worried about all the different sort of agenda items. The first two is just to give us not just necessarily an update, but just to kind of orient ourselves to the MYP and the NEASC. Because some of us have not been part of that process before. I know, Rita, you and I have, and I think you've even done it before me as well. And so not, to say how long you've been on or anything, Rita. But I just thought it was important for us to kind of we talk about those words a lot, but this is sort of what that means, to know that in the summer we're going to have meetings really kind of dedicated to those things. So that's the orientation for that. And then for the board to really kind of sink our teeth into the I'm really sorry, but Katie has decided to find me for the first time today. The transgender report, and that I know that Jay, your committee had been really working hard on the tuition for out-of-state students, and then 7, 8, and 9 are ones that we deal with on a regular basis. Specifically 9, that's the adjournment. So don't be worried about how much stuff we have on there, and it's very meaty. But I just felt like we needed to just kind of have just a planting about the MYP and the NEASC, and then we're going to go into the trans finder. So Susan or Phil, would you take it away for the MYP?
So I actually briefed you on in the update, because I like to do that ahead of time. And when we looked, we had our MYP visit this spring. And when you are going through this accreditation process, there are certain standards that you have to meet. And so Kathy Wilson has really been our MYP coordinator. Her responsibility and stipend is paid, or her fee is paid for through the MSAP grant. We also have Leslie Forbes, who's the Humanities Magnet Coordinator, and Amy Murphy, who's been the STEM Magnet Coordinator. And the three of them really work together with administration into making sure that all of these pieces are in place in getting ready for the visit. It's really happened since we authorized that with our Groton 2020, and this Board of Ed decided that we wanted to be an international baccalaureate district with the MYP program from 6th to 10th grade. But I feel like, and it just kind of came up to me in our last meeting on curriculum, that this year with COVID, we haven't brought Kathy back to the table. She had come certainly in the beginning and shared. They're actually getting ready. The next step, they've been doing unit planners together and collaborating, getting some professional learning around that. And we're going into a year where we're going to really have to look at assessment. So I really feel like the curriculum committee needs to be briefed to have a more in-depth look at that and what it looks like, and then the COW. So we're looking to probably put some of those things into place over the summer and into next year. So the committee, like I had said in the briefing, was very pleased and gave us many recommendations, or many approvals of, what did I call it? Commendations. And then they also gave us recommendations. And those recommendations, because they'll be coming back in this accreditation process, are really help us to focus on what is it that we need to tackle. So it basically is a self-study. The two of them are both self-studies. So we examine and do a self-evaluation based on what are those objectives that need to be met? What do we need to have in place for the actual visit? And this process was very helpful to interview people to see what was happening. And, it was all on Zoom. Both of the visits were on Zoom. So people, I met with both teams, and with the MYP, they gave us some good feedback, and I think that we just need to do a deeper dive with the board so that you can have more information. So we will do that. The NEASC, of course, is New England Association of Schools and Colleges, and they sent their collaborative team to us. We had done the self-study, and I had mentioned that Amy McKenna and Carmita Hodge really took the lead on this, and they really worked with the faculty at Fitch High School. And I think the next steps are to really make it a K through 12 process so that we understand the vision of a graduate. We need to start thinking about it in pre-K. What is that child as they enter our district? What are those expectations? And then what is the outcome when they graduate from Fitch? And we all kind of have to be on board in that process. So I know Phil is going to take a lead with this NEASC. He's actually gone on visits and had visits himself. So he's going to work closely with the team and be able to bring back some more information to you as we go through this.
Just one thing, literally the NEASC report was the first document I was handed as I walked in the door.
I said, here's the Nestea plunge.
Right, but I mean, Susan was right. I had my middle school went through the accreditation process. I was on committees. I've chaired committees, so I understand the process very well. And so, as Susan mentioned, there's a lot of valuable work to come from this. Obviously, that's why we do it. But a valuable part of the process has already happened, which is that self-study. And those of you who know the process, I mean, to be able to look at yourself, to be able to talk to all the stakeholders, administration, parents, students, all that is really the important work. And the good, what I'm hearing and what I'm reading in the report and hearing from Ted Kelleher and the administration is that really there were no surprises that came out of this because they did such a thorough self-reflection. There were no surprises. And I think the key, as Susan was starting to talk about, is that vision of the graduate. And then how is that now going to permeate the district? How is that going to come down, as Susan said, from pre-K up now to lead to that vision, how our kids are going to leave Groton. So you're right. I think we have to do a deeper dive and really look at it. I don't know how many of you have seen the report, but I don't know if you have to read the entire thing, but perhaps, me along with the high school administrative team can provide some kind of Cliff Notes version of it for you so you don't have to go through the whole thing. But it's a great, it gives great suggestions. It gives a tremendous amount of commendations too. We don't want to, we don't want to forget about those, but we do want to concentrate on the recommendations. So
I know some of our big takeaways were the older side of Fitch. What do they call it? Vintage. And that, we wanted to make sure it was up to standard for many of our careers programs that are out of that, the business department and culinary arts. So
You just froze, Susan.
She's going to be gone for a while now. She's going to have to sign out and sign back in. But one of the aspects that she was talking about is really what it helps us do, and it helps us identify, the physical part of the school as well. And I know, I don't know if Sam wants to speak on that, if you know more about that, but it did give us some direction in terms of updating that vintage part of the high school, as they call it.
Vintage.
Liz?
Yeah, Phil, I would like to read the report.
Mhm.
So where is it? Is it electronic, or do you want to send me a copy, or I can pick a copy up? I would really like to read the report.
I was given a physical copy, so it could be as easy as me just scanning it and sending it to you. If there is an electronic copy, I can email that to you as well. I can send it to the whole board if you want, and then whoever wants to read it can read it, of course.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
How long is it?
Oh, it's long.
About that long.
Yeah, I mean, it's very extensive.
It's
I
done.
mean,
I don't know.
would
I don't know
like-
how many pages, but it's probably 40 pages.
Mhm.
Front
But
and back.
usually someone from the high school comes and reports on it to the board,
Okay.
you know, and along with you.
Yeah, and obviously
And
they were there
to
for the
share
work,
and the
so it would-
feedback and how they're going to, you know, if there are recommendations, what they plan to do. And also it's really lovely to hear on air also the things that Fitch is doing really well.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll talk to Mr. Kelleher and because obviously, like I said, they were there for the work and they did it, and they should be able to come here and really, like you said, take some time to relish in the stuff that the commendations, as
Right.
well as, I know that's going to be a part of our work this summer, is really mapping out where it goes from here. So sorry, Susan, you got cut off. So I just,
I know, it's been, my internet's been frail.
but the board just said that they would like a copy of the report. So I said I would provide that for them.
And once again, Rita, to your point, is that this was just a quick overview. This was just to kind of let people know that we wanted a much deeper dive, but at least I wanted to begin to let people know that this is sort of what's coming our way and what it is, because some of us don't know what NEASC is and what have you. So I just kind of wanted us to get planted into something, or at least in the same field.
Right. It'd be nice, just for the general public, if the acronym isn't used and we could sound out in words what NEAS means.
Right. And that can be
Now-
done.
now.
when we-
I mean, even right now, you know.
Oh,
for the-
I think Susan said it earlier.
I did, the New
you?
England, I have it in my board notes and I said it
Yep.
out loud when I announced it. It's the New England Association of Schools and Colleges.
Right. And now Fitch had no problem about getting accredited because there are times.
They're not complete. It's like a 10-year journey. So this was the
Right.
visit. They have in 2 years, they've got to take those recommendations and do something with it. So then they come back in 2 years. So this is just a step along the way. The
Right.
visit. So
But I'll
And
get
so
that- I'll get
at
that
that
out to you.
time, will they rank us? I mean, they usually give you, I mean, I know North Stonington at one point was very much on the verge of not being accredited because they needed to do very major things, but that isn't the case with Fitch, right?
no, we haven't heard anything like that.
Good.
No.
Thank you.
Mhm. So that was my brief version, but it's another, we need to go back to it and we need to do a deeper dive. So,
All right, so if there's no further questions or if you do have questions that you want to make sure get addressed when we meet, feel free to either to send them either to Phil or to Susan, so that they can get them and so that they can have answers to those specifically. But let us, if there's nothing further, then I would like to move us into our next agenda item, which is the review of the Transfinder report and estimated school opening and closing times.
so I briefed the board on the transition audit report update and the 5 kind of essential ingredients to why we need to pay attention to the report. And Tom is he's already met with the principals and we've done a really good job having good conversation around this. And there's been some more work done in between the last time I told you about it and today. So he's going to brief us on that.
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me and see the presentation?
Yes.
Awesome. So I apologize if Susan's already gone over some of this with you. If I'm redundant, I will move quickly, just let me know. But you know, that as Susan said, you know, our need to reevaluate transportation was really multifaceted. The biggest one though, is that we have our K-5 elementary magnet schools opening next year. And the need to be able to transport all those students across the district in a timely manner really necessitated us taking a look at our transportation and making sure we were providing enough time between tiers. When we're talking about tiers, we're talking about bus runs. So one tier would be the elementary bus run, another tier would be the middle school run, and this year we also have a high school run. We also are going to be offering our transportation to our pre-K students. So as of now, the early indications are that the majority of those students will not opt for transportation, but we do intend to offer transportation to all those students should they choose it. as I said, with the elementary magnet schools, there's going to be additional travel distance. So we will have students who choose a school that's geographically the farthest from their home. And because of that, we need to provide extra time for the bus to travel that long distance. If we kind of went forward with our traditional system of having a 3-tier system and doing the bus mapping the way that we currently do, we anticipated having to add buses, which would have been an extra cost for the district. And it wasn't something that we, one, budgeted for, but also we didn't feel was necessary if we took the steps to be more efficient in our practices. So that was kind of the reasoning behind going through this process in the first place. So we contracted with a company called TransFinder. So they are actually the parent company of RouteFinder, which is the system that we use to route students on our buses and to make sure they have a bus to go on. TransFinder is a parent company, and they do a lot of different things, but one thing they can do is they can go into your system and view all of your data and say, you know what, you're doing things well, or here are some opportunities to become more efficient with your practices. And it's that's what we did with the route efficiency study. And I'll get into some specifics, but overall, that study determined that there was additional capacity on our current buses. In other words, we could fit more students on the buses that we currently already have. With that, it also determined that we could go to a 2-tier busing system, which means that we'd combine our secondary tier, so our middle school and our high school tier could be combined, and all of those students could fit on the buses that we currently are contracting with. So this is a picture of the 2020 Fitch High School AM vehicle utilization. So to be very clear, this is not how many students actually rode the bus. This is how many students were kind of assigned to each bus. So typically, TransFinder and transportation companies aim for a target ridership around 66%. So if you're thinking about, each bench on the bus, 100% capacity would be 3 students in each of those benches. 66% is 2 students sitting in each bench on the school bus. So they aim to get to that capacity is thinking about a max, or the most efficient kind of utilization. So our buses this year were significantly under that utilization. I do realize some of that is due to COVID, and I'll talk about kind of some historical context to talk about that utilization. But the overall takeaway here is that our buses were underutilized. We weren't filling up our buses nearly to capacity. And again, this is just how many students were assigned to each bus, not how many students rode each bus. So while, this bus up here may have been close to that 66% capacity, the reality is the bus probably was much more empty than that because those students all didn't show up at the same time.
And then you wonder about the ones that were only at 20%,
Absolutely.
of ridership and how they must have looked. So we did hear from quite a few people that doesn't look like anybody's riding the bus, but the study was done more than just this past year. It was done for several years before that too, and indicated that we did have some work to do.
Absolutely. And this is, again, from 2020 AM vehicle utilization, and it's really the same trend. So overall, our utilization was well below where we'd like it to be. And obviously not every run is going to be able to be at our ideal capacity because, ideal capacity would only happen if we had an unlimited amount of time. If you could run the bus for 2 hours all around town and pick up as many kids as possible to fit on the bus, that'd be great, but that's not realistic from a time standpoint. Not only do we not want students on the bus that long, it just, we couldn't get them to school physically on time. So we never expect to hit perfect capacity for every single bus, but we want to get as close as possible. And this just highlighted the fact that there are efficiencies to be had if we really look at our routes in a different way. So just to
Excuse
provide,
me,
oh yeah,
before could you go back to that slide? I have some questions, please.
absolutely.
When you look at the Northeast Magnet School, bus 33 is relatively low, and 35, 36. Is that because there are walkers and children walk to those schools and they have to bring the buses for the people that live more than a mile?
I can't say specifically with those buses if that's the cause.
And even for, also CK,
Mhm.
again, there's some low ones, and I'm just wondering if because of walkers, it's like
I don't
that.
think walkers had anything to do with it. I just don't think we put ridership at the right percentage. We were very low with the number of seats that we reserve for kids. Because this doesn't have to do with who's riding, it's who we've assigned seats to.
Right. And I noticed that, that
Bus
some,
32 is a magnet bus, so that would probably indicate that somebody was at the other end of town, needed to get over to Northeast Academy.
I see. Okay. And then I have a question, like I noticed that for the high school, bus 22, which is the elementary bus and middle school that comes into our neighborhood, wasn't in the high school loop. Are there some buses that don't also pick up high school students?
Yes, that's correct.
That's the case?
Yes, so we do need, as it's currently set up now, there are more buses needed at the elementary level than at the high school level. So there are a certain number of buses that currently aren't being utilized on both tiers, or all 3 tiers, I guess, for the current system.
But it's really the elementary, Rita, that drives it.
Yeah.
Oh, I know
Because,
that.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's why, that it's always been when you see all those empty buses leaving Fitch. That's always been, but I didn't realize that some buses just did the elementary runs and not the high school. Oh, that's interesting. So we have to be much more efficient.
You're right.
Yes.
Some of those.
That's what
elementary
this report is
schools do
telling
out-of-town
us.
buses, too.
I'm
What?
sorry, Sam?
I said some of those elementary buses could be doing out-of-town runs as well. You still have.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, like going to the Multicultural Magnet School or Sacred Heart?
Ledyard
see.
High School, yeah.
Okay.
To give a little bit of historical context, so TransFinder also looked back at 2018, 2019, and 2019, 2020. Their average utilization for those 2 prior years was 44%. So we were higher. Last year we were at 33%. So we were higher in previous years, but still well below that target of 60 to 80%. Again, as I detailed earlier, 2 riders per seat would be 66%. So if you're putting 2 riders in each bench, and 80% would be 3 riders per seat and half the bus. Now, for the high school and middle school level, secondary level, where students are physically larger, we certainly don't want to have 3 kids to a seat in too many circumstances. It would be possible if we needed to. For the elementary students who are smaller, we could do that if need be. And we may
And I
need
think
to
the way
given magnets.
you broke it out was for really middle school and high school our goal would be for 2 to a seat, but for elementary, it might be a combination where some of the little children in the front of the bus had 3 to a bench, and then the bigger kids in the back had 2. It would be a combination of the 2.
Absolutely.
But so that means though, then there are still no seatbelts on our buses because they
No,
wouldn't
there are
be.
still no seatbelts on our buses.
I'm hoping in the next bus contract, we could ask for that along with electric buses.
Kim, can I ask?
Andrea, absolutely.
The research that I've seen about seatbelts on school buses indicates that they're more dangerous than not having them. Is that, Mr. Holmesdale, is that, Lonsdale, is that true?
To be honest, I don't have any research or documentation to support that. We could certainly look at that, but I don't have any research to my knowledge that supports that statement.
I remember that was we spoke about this a long time ago when I was a principal. And Sam, do you have anything on that?
So I'm going to keep us germane to the TransFinder
Okay.
report.
Yeah.
But Andrea, I think that is a wonderful question when we get to be thinking about our next contract and who gets awarded the contract.
No, you're absolutely correct. Thank you.
All right. So TransFinder right now, not only are they doing an efficiency study, they're going to be working on efficient routing design for the 2021-2022 school year. So basically setting up the physical routes of the buses and trying to do it in a more efficient manner. And this, our big hope out of this, and what I think is really a realistic hope, is that we're going to be able to accomplish the district goals of providing, safe and timely transportation for all of these students, especially our elementary magnet students, and get them to school on time. Without having to add additional bus capacity, which again would not have been possible had we not undertaken this kind of review of the transportation. It's going to provide us a foundation. So this is a one-time expense for us, hopefully, to be able to kind of set up a foundation of how this is going to look with our current transportation system. But with that also comes training, so we can build capacity internally, so that next year we're just building upon this foundation, and we're going to keep this efficient process going for years to come. So hopefully, when we do go to negotiate that bus contract, we have a really efficient design of the system. And, I don't want to make any promises, but I'm hoping that we can certainly, maybe look at scaling back our buses that we need, because we are becoming so efficient in our process. So I hope that's where we are in a year or two when it's time to renegotiate. But I think, with this efficient foundation and also with the training that our staff is going to get, I think we're going to be in the best position to be able to do that. So with that, and with this study, we've talked about the possibility of doing a two-tier system. And I think there are a lot of benefits to the two-tier system. I know Susan's talked about it before, and here are just 4 really quick ones. The biggest thing for me is that we get increased sleep for our high school students. So there's a lot of evidence and research supports that later start times benefit students at the high school level academically. And we certainly think that with this two-tier system, we can do that. It's also going to allow us increased time between our bus tiers. So as I stated, it was really important that we got more time between our elementary bus tier. So we had more time to get students across town, should they have chosen the school that was geographically very far from their home. It also allows us increased efficiency. So school buses are going to spend less time driving on the road. It's going to mean lower fuel consumption and costs for us going forward as a district, and the district pays for diesel, so that's important. It also may allow us some increased flexibility. So although we don't necessarily have any plans for this right now, because Groton Middle School and Fitch High School will have schedules that are very closely aligned, it may allow us the possibility of sharing staffing between buildings in the future, should we choose to go that route, making it kind of a truly campus vibe, which I think is great. Thinking about the new middle school and so close geographically, I think that's going to be a great step for us as a district. So these are our proposed bell times. These are, tentative and something we're still studying. We have done a lot of work with both TransFinder, trying to project how much time we would need in between bus tiers. I know Sam has worked with the bus company to actually look at how the bus would have to drive in between buildings. I've gone in and observed arrival at Fitch to make sure that this would be enough time. As of now, we're feeling increasingly confident that these proposed bell times will work and be feasible to get students, in a two-tier system where they would drop off at Fitch first and then travel to Groton Middle School. I think, Susan and I have discussed, if we did need additional time with the elementary schools when we get our final routes, what we would probably do is move the elementary schools maybe 5 minutes later. But I think we're close enough now where we can project within 5 minutes the amount of time we're going to need for bus tiers.
And you can see that in the arrival, when you compare on the left-hand side what is currently practiced to what's on the right-hand side, that bus arrival time at Fitch is 7:15, and in actuality, kids are getting there at 7. And then they're waiting until class starts at 7:25. So if we can, move those buses to more of a bus arrival time at 7:35, they might be there at 7:30, some of them, but we'll be there by 7:35. And then the bell times, if you notice, are also about a 20-minute difference. So it's really only 20 minutes we're talking about. And then the end time, we are looking at schedules that are the same amount of time for our buildings, so that time of instructional time is not impacted at all. So, and with the middle school, it's even, 10 minutes less, and then with the elementary, it's like a 5-minute difference. But it does give us more time in between that first tier with secondary and the second tier with elementary, and that's the driving force, is those magnet schools. And I've talked to Kim about this, but if there's any complaints I get is parents who really have kids on buses for more than an hour coming from one side of town to the other. So that's the part we want to do better. I did review the policy, and it doesn't say that there's a particular time frame that kids shouldn't be on buses, but kind of the rule of thumb has always been an hour or less. And less is better.
Jay, would you like to ask your question?
Just a quick observation. For many years, parents and members of the board have explored this idea of starting the high school later. Some studies have shown that starting it even later than this, say 8:30, really would help the students. However, I also know that there are a lot of parents who are concerned about even this 20-minute change somehow disrupting after school activities. And I would like to hear more about that, maybe from the high school, to know, I guess 20 minutes doesn't seem like a lot. And I'd like the high school to explain to us what impact they see. Because it just seems to me, if we can combine these routes, we pay less for the gas because we're currently on the hook to pay for the gas for these buses, less emissions by having, fewer rounds of buses. So it's really something that, I think we can support, but I want to know what kind of disruption the high school thinks there'll be to after school activities, especially with regard to other schools in the area and activities between them.
And
So I
Jay,
think
Jay,
the biggest-
the plan was to have our high school people there, but because of rescheduling, they are not here. So Susan, take it away.
I wanted to say that having an athletic director for the school district that runs the coordination between facilities and programming for middle school and high school, that's a real value to us, a value plus, that we would have that coordination in-house. Also with clubs and things, they really start after school and there's such a variety. Some things like band don't even start until later when they can get that field use. So that all that coordination has not been done with this yet, but it certainly will be a work that has to be accomplished so that kids will still get what they want to participate in. But the 20 minutes, an hour would have been a major difference and we would have had to work with other communities, but 20 minutes is not such a big deal.
And
But
Kim,
we can certainly have them back.
and Kim,
Yes.
as I recall, when students had to go far away from the school, there was early dismissal. So I would imagine that that would apply here too. Right.
Yeah, I think that when I spoke to Ted the other day, he was talking about some of the longer athletic trips, for instance, up to Killingly, up that way. You might have to give some early dismissals. And having coached for many years, when you get into the tournaments, they also start earlier in the day. So some of those trips are, I think the CIAC never gives us local games. I think we always travel to the middle of the state somewhere for those games. So those games, again, would be early dismissals. But the regular season games, for the most part, locals will shouldn't be a major problem.
And there are, there are districts across the state that have already done this ahead of us and have done it in a bigger way, where they really kind of switched elementary with high school, so that the high school starting at 9 and the elementaries are starting, as early as 7. So we're not suggesting this, but this is, I think, a good way to segue into this, to kind of make sure that we have plenty of time, like Tom said, for those elementary runs to run in the best way possible for little children, and then to bring in the middle school and high school together, have the arrival at the high school first, when the buses are coming in, and then bring middle school over. And then at the end of the day, same thing, pick up the high school kids first and then the middle school.
Kim, I have 2 questions.
Absolutely.
My first is, when you drop off the high school first, do they have to go up the driveway and back out the driveway and then around to the middle school? There's no way that the students could walk and both drop off at the same time? No.
No,
Okay.
I did the run the other day with a bus, and the best route turned out to be exactly how they come into the high school now, drop the high school kids off in front of the high school. They would go back down and around the circle and then head to the middle school from there. The middle
Okay.
school also are very particular about how they disembark those kids from the buses and load them again in the afternoon. So they're very safety conscious over there with the younger kids. So I think they want to continue to keep that under control.
Okay.
And
And my
I
other
think-
question
No, I'm
is
sorry.
about we have to consider the students at work. also after school. So 20 minutes hopefully wouldn't affect the work,
Yeah.
the students at work. It's not always about clubs and athletics, but there are students that
Yes.
really have jobs.
That's right.
So that's the other consideration.
Kim, it's Liz.
Absolutely.
I want to just ask, is this a little different from the first one we've seen? Because I just want to make sure that I had the same information. Because at first I thought it was more of a 45-minute change, and that the middle school was going to be dropped off first, and then the high school was going to be dropped off second. Am I just not remembering correctly? Because I really thought that that's what we had talked about one time prior, was that especially that the middle school was going to come off first and then the high school was going to get dropped off. So is that a change that so we did say initially, Sam, that
Well, we talked about that because they're going to have the middle schoolers sitting in the front of the bus and the high schoolers toward the back of the bus. And and it would have been nice to have the middle schoolers get off first, but I don't think it's a major problem with the high schoolers disembarking with the middle schoolers in the front of the bus. But, and the route is much better and safer to go to the high school first.
And with pickup at dismissal, it's better for the high school to get on first. They go sit in the back and then pick up the middle school and they sit in the front.
absolutely.
So you're going to have
Sam,
that either way.
Sam, the other question, I have had a number of things come to me through my email about these proposed changes and stuff. And one of the issues that has been brought up is that the inconsistency of the police or traffic control at the end of the high school going on to Groton Long Point Road. And I was actually up there just the other day, and it was dismissal and there was no police officer there directing traffic. And I'm concerned because that just seems to be a pattern. It's happened for a long time. Should we explore looking at a different way of having security at the end of that directing traffic? Because sometimes the police get called out on calls and aren't there. And it can be a bit of a traffic jam. I'm just kind of wondering, how to make it smooth or a much more safe and smoother for our people.
Even if we use our SROs in case of emergency, Liz, if they aren't able to get out there.
The thing I'm saying is that's not happening. And that's what
Well,
can we do? This is something that we can address so that it becomes like, this is what happens if the police can't be there. There needs to be some communication, and then somebody from the staff, like our SRO, is out there directing traffic.
Mhm.
Sam?
It would have to be a police officer. I think we can talk to the chief about that and see if we can remedy that by using the SROs for that purpose. I know that when the middle school, one additional problem is when the middle school leaves, after they drop kids off in the morning, when they leave the high school, there's a lot of traffic coming to Groton Long Point past the high school, and the buses get caught in that traffic. So they don't get out of the high school in the morning as timely as we would like either. So we're going to be talking to the chief about those situations, see if there's something we can do about it.
Well, I think that might even benefit if their job is to drop off the high school, then go to the middle school to drop those kids off. You're not going to have that problem at the top of Fort Hill.
And Sam, that little access road between the high school and the middle school, is that just cannot function as the transport between the two schools? That's not a feasible thing?
They do go through there.
They do.
There's a sign there that says that's for bus traffic only at certain hours. So that was intended for the buses to go to the middle school from the beginning.
Okay, so am I hear you saying that when they leave, let's say they've dropped off the kids from the high school and then they're leaving, are you expecting them to go down onto Groton Long Point Road again? Or are you expecting them to go around the circle and back up and then across the back?
Yeah, they'll drop off at the high school, go around the circle, head to the middle school through that access road, drop the middle schoolers off, come back out through the high school again onto Groton Long Point Road and off to the next run.
Okay, I was just concerned about with traffic lights, you know, how much more safe that is for those guys to be leaving through there. And that's been one of my major concerns. And I've had a couple of parents have contacted me about that as well.
I don't know if
So-
you tried that light at the bottom of the hill, but if the buses went to the bottom of the hill at the tech school
Yep.
entrance, that's a very long light to get
Yep.
onto Route 1 there. So I don't think we want our buses going that way for sure.
Tom, you could probably take down this slide.
Sorry, can I just finish this one slide? I
Sure,
believe this is the
sure.
last one.
I'm sorry.
So, no, it's okay. So, our next steps, we're working, as Sam had talked about earlier, to make sure that our arrival and dismissal procedures are as safe, as efficient as possible. And that's, Sam going around with the bus company, making sure, us observing, and just trying to make sure that we have the best setup possible for next year. TransFinder is working to finalize routing. So I'm hopeful actually by the end of this week that we'll have our routing for the middle school and high school done, which is very far ahead of where we typically have our routing done. I'm also, anticipate that our K-5 runs will be done by the end of this month as well. So they have up-to-date data with all of our magnet enrollment. And we should see those routes to us by the end of this month and have, a really big head start on where we typically are at this point in the year. We're also working with the special education department to make sure that all these changes don't impact their accommodations whatsoever. And at this point, my initial conversations with Denise is that we should be able to provide all the transportation necessary without increasing our buses on that end as well.
So I think if we have any updates, I'd like to put it on the agenda for next week, just to, when we have our final board meeting, just to kind of keep you guys really very current. This is, very timely. So the sooner that we can have the board vote on this and move it out to the public, I think the better off we're going to be. But I do want to give you this information as it comes to us, so that you're very much aware of, what is happening and what the results of the TransFinder study and routing system is showing us.
Rita.
Your last bullet was about special education. Are you still planning to contract with Groton?
Yeah,
Sam?
this would not affect.
I know it doesn't affect, but my question is, some of the towns in our area, I know Stonington purchased vans to transport their special education students, and it has saved them quite a bit of money. The vans have paid for themselves. So, and I know we have a lot of vans that transport our, and I was just curious whether or not we've ever done a study about purchasing our own vans to use for special education students. It's just so I throw it out there to Sam or Ken.
Ken, I think I would defer to you on that one.
Yeah.
That's an interesting, I've not seen a study like that, but that's very interesting.
Yeah, you might want to, if you want to speak to the Stonington business manager. I know the superintendent, when they presented at Learn, that was one thing that they highlighted, was how much money they saved by having their own special education van. I know it's a smaller school system. They don't have as many students as Groton has, but it's just something to look into.
Hey, Rita, can I take your fabulous idea and can I suggest to Jay that the finance and facilities possibly kind of have a go at that and take a look at what that means with Ken?
Kim,
Andrea.
yeah, tell me if this is off topic, and you will. I was wondering about small vans to transport elementary students across the town for schools of choice, for magnet schools. Would that be something that Jay might want to, and the finance committee might want to look at? And in terms of, even if we did decide, as Rita is suggesting, that we might buy, could we then use those smaller vans instead of transporting those big buses all over town to transport magnet students?
I guess the whole purpose of the study is that we are to put more people in the buses. and transporting them throughout the town.
But
So am I
let's see
missing your point?
if we own them, and then the children wouldn't be on the bus for as long as they may be. That's my point.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Susan, I have two questions.
Shoot.
So I'm going to put them both out there and then you guys can make a decision about which one gets answered. Both of them should get answered, but which one gets answered first. So let's say the board goes ahead and we approve of moving forward with a two-tiered bus system as it's presented in terms of the drop off and at the high school and the middle school and the time change within the school system. Okay. Is how does the board want, I guess this is for everyone, how does the board want us to get this information out to people? Because I would like to have our information get out instead of having it sort of snowball into other people's information or added to. So how do we want to do the public matter? And it has to be more than just websites. It has to be more than just robocalls. I don't know if we have open houses or what have you, but that's my first question. And the second is, can someone talk to me about the concerns about having middle school and high school on the buses at the same time? I've heard lots of people who have had lots of concerns about that, and I would just love to hear about how we are thinking about that. Those are my two questions.
Susan, I can touch base.
Yeah, Phil,
a
you want to
little
chime
bit-
in because you've done this recently.
Yeah, a little bit on the parental concerns of having the middle school and high school kids on the bus. And I think we'll have to think about how we want to approach that, because that's definitely going to be, in my experience, that has been the major concern when something like this is announced. So I think we could think, I've been a part of a district, we've had some restrictions as to where, high school kids can sit and where middle school kids can sit. In my experience, it's taken about a week or two to get people acclimated to everything, and then everything had run smoothly. I think I've mentioned before where the middle school kids tend to not be concerned with the middle school kids. They go to the back of the bus,
Right.
They have their headphones on, or they're having their own discussions, and the middle school kids are on the front. And we have actually seen improved behavior by the middle school kids because the older kids are on the bus. So there's some benefits to it as well. But I think you're right. That's going to be a concern. And I think if we have some rules in place, and I think the bus company also told us about providing additional training for their drivers because they'll have more kids on the buses as well. So I think we'll need to find out a little bit more about what that training is so we can share that with the parents as well. But I do think we need a game plan for that because those will be the major concerns.
And I think that was number 2 in my TransFinder update, was really looking at those safety measures, whether it's the training of the staff, whether it's making sure kids knew where they were to sit and what was expected of them. And then the third is TransFinder also has better cameras. Our cameras right now, it's kind of interesting. If we want to see a videotape of something that happened on the bus and we tell the bus company, it disappears. You can't find it. But if we go there, Sam's been known to go there and get it. So I want a camera that talks to us and that we have direct access of, being able to view those at any time. And I think that will be a huge improvement to help safeguard those buses. So there are a few things we can put into place, I think, that will make the bus rides even safer than they are now.
Liz?
Yeah, that was going to be my question, was about the cameras, our improved camera system. I just had a question too, Ken. If one of the recommendations would be to hire bus monitors, what type of financial impact might that look like? And I'm not sure if you would even have an idea about that, but who would, how would that work?
Yeah, we do currently have bus aides that do sit on the special ed buses, but we don't have any monitors as it were right now. So that's something we'd have to look into and determine.
How much does that usually run at this time? Like those bus aides on those special ed buses, what's the average, cost per bus? Do you have if it's okay if, I'm sure you've got all these numbers in your head. You could just pluck them out of your head. But maybe if you could come back to finance and facilities, and so we can have a financial impact about, what if the ultimate thing is that we have to hire aides to be on these buses? Because I've had parents too come back to me and say, I'm not too keen about my middle schooler sitting in with a high school senior. And I'm like, I understand. Okay, I understand. However, I have family members that have ridden buses with kids from kindergarten through high school on the same bus. And I know that was in another age back in the, the last century. But, and things have changed, but I want to make sure that I can respond that we know what our options are, is what I'm saying. Okay.
Do that. I'll come up with that.
Thank you, Ken.
I'm in line with Liz's. Isn't there a difference though between the cost of a special education aide on the bus and a bus monitor isn't there a difference? Don't the aides have to be trained on special education buses? Yeah. Yes. Sam's shaking his head. Yes. So I don't think they're apples to apples. I think it's a different type of thing.
Well, but I do think we'd want to monitor two trained. I think that the idea of
you want them
transponder training-
trained.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not the same as the special ed. It's different. They really have pretty intensive training, I know.
Just to get a ballpark
there are
idea.
hard positions at this point, like paraprofessionals and substitutes. They're hard to fill at this point, but doesn't mean that we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I did just want to add one thing, if you don't mind, about the potential camera option. So I did actually already start meeting with a few vendors and kind of looking at some options. My only concern at this point is if the district does spend a significant amount of money to install these cameras within the buses, I don't want this to lock us into our current bus contractor should we be going out to bid within the next couple of years. So I am trying to explore whether there's an option that could be easily uninstalled off the buses and kind of reinstalled in a different format. But that would be kind of one of my concerns at the moment, just thinking about the longevity. I think most of these devices would have at least a 5-year lifespan. I think our current bus track, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have 2 more years on this before. So I wouldn't want to kind of forego those additional 3 years if we go through the cost of installing these, that we would lose those cameras should we go with a different vendor. So I am looking at those options, and there are some different options out there. If we don't go with cameras, there are GPS options for families that alert them when the bus is arriving. They can see when the bus is going to be late. There are cameras that can be installed on the outside to provide safety from, as the students are leaving the bus. So there are many different options that we can look at to provide a safer experience. But that's one of my main concerns, is just making sure we have flexibility going forward.
Did we answer both questions, Kim?
You didn't answer the public how to take it out.
So, I think probably being able to do it in several ways. So whether we do some kind of a, kind of open house, like you said, or a forum around it, we could certainly do that. We could do it either in person, or we could do it remote. We could tape record it while we're doing it, so we could put it on the website. So I think there are ways that we could get the information out to folks. I think a variety of ways is probably the best. So, the website, the robocalls, and now one of the things we're doing is we're sending text messages. Parents love the text messages, and we're either linking them directly to our website with the more critical, or having them go to their email to find more information. So we're really trying to encourage them to find what they need on that website. And we've been trying to keep it very current and updating it all the time. But, a focus group is also a good thing. We did a lot of that with return to school. And, I can see that in our future too, but it would have to happen sooner than later when everybody goes out of town. This is our last week of school, P.S., by the way.
I will also just say to Susan's point, we did just launch our new registration system today, which asks for new updated contact information from all of our families. So, you know, to Susan's point about being able to utilize text messages, that's going to be extremely useful for us. It also allows parents and guardians to go into the system and update their contact information instantaneously. So if they get a new cell phone number, they can go in and change it, or before they'd have to reach out to the school building, we'd have to make that change. So I think, you know, going forward, our contact information should be a lot more accurate, and it'll allow us to reach our families a lot more easily and with a lot more fidelity, those messages getting through.
Andrea?
I'd like to ask a follow-up question about the cameras. Did I hear you say, I don't know which one of you, Sam or Mr. Lonsdale, but I think it was you. Did I hear you say that the cameras may look at, you know, attend to what's happening on the outside? I want to make sure that the cameras keep a record of what happens on the inside. I don't want to lose that.
Oh, absolutely. No, I guess, you know, in meeting with different vendors, there are a lot of different solutions out there right now, some which combine both inside and outside capabilities. So there are some cameras, and we'd obviously have to have a much larger conversation about this, but some of their funding source can be provided through, some of these cameras coordinate with the local police department. So anybody who kind of runs a signal, for lack of a better term, there's a camera on the signal that sees that. Basically, that gets forwarded to the police department, and any money that's collected is somewhat split. I don't know the exact cost share, split between the district and the police department, and then that helps fund some of the cameras. So there are schemes like that out there that can help pay for some of these practices, and that is something we can explore if the board's open to that.
Yeah. The thing that I'm interested in is ensuring that what happens on the bus is recorded.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
What could go wrong with this two-tier bus system?
So I think, you know, I think we've done as good of a job as we could in terms of trying to predict how long it takes to get between the high school and the middle school. I think given our current enrollment numbers, I feel quite comfortable that we've given enough time between these two runs. I think kind of thinking out into the future, you know, we can't predict how many students will continue to want to participate within our magnet system. So hopefully more and more students will want to participate. But as we move forward over the next 5 years, if all of our students are participating at that point, it may increase demands on our transportation system, you know, as we go forward. If every student wants to go to a school that's far away from their geographic home, that could provide additional strain on our system. But I'm confident, given the information and the data we have right now, this is achievable. But long term, those are kind of the unknown variables that I think about that keep me up at night, thinking about, you know, how we do this sustainably going forward, at the same time as hopefully providing cost savings to the district.
We do have safeguards because our intra-district magnets are not just open choice, they are neighborhood schools. And then according to how many seats are available, they can be open up in the lottery. So it's kind of a dual system. So I can't see the day when Groton would have, you know, every kid assigned to a school and they would want to go somewhere else and we could fit them in there. So that is not what we're talking about. We really heard loud and clear from the parent survey several years ago that parents liked having that option of having their neighborhood school, but they also wanted to have some choice. So that's what we're offering at this point.
Liz?
One last question, and Sam, I think this might be for you. How many buses do we run into the high school right now? How many buses?
I had that number the other day. We have a total of 48 buses, but it was close. It was close to the 40 number that are actually going to the high school. But
Okay.
My guess was 43, Sam, is the number that popped into my head.
yeah.
All right,
We can bring that back to you though next week.
That's not my question. My question is, Sam, I'm thinking about, okay, the buses are coming up that driveway. They're coming to the front of the school to drop off. And then they're going to go back down around around that circle and then having to get back in that line to go back up and go to the other thing. Are you gonna have somebody down there directing traffic too? Because isn't that gonna get kind of bottlenecked?
Yeah, I think Tom volunteered for that position. I don't know.
Okay, Tom, that's a
Oh, I
great
heard it was
thing.
you, Sam.
No, but I was just thinking, that's
Yeah.
40 some buses and
Well,
trying
the
to
bus-
get,
They don't all arrive at the same time. They do.
I do know that, Sam.
Yeah.
But they all have to be there by a certain hour and, the beginning of the school day as well as the end of the school day, it's very congested. I just want to throw that out there as a thought and, I was even thinking maybe do a practice run with all
Well,
these people at some
We're
point.
doing that. Yep.
Sure, we ask STA to do a practice run before the school year starts. So I think this is the first year that they haven't done it in a while, but we'll be insistent that they do a practice run this summer before we start for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Isn't it possible to reverse the drop off when you come up the driveway rather than going around and then dropping off? Can you reverse it so then they can just head right out to the middle school? Just have the buses not make that whole loop for the high school, but actually come up and then
Well,
drop off.
we did look at going in the other direction, but then they'd be getting off on the parking lot side of the bus and crossing bus traffic to get into the school. So
They would? I mean, I guess I'm just thinking of it a different way. And
I
and
drew him a
think-
picture, but it didn't work. My picture
No.
didn't work. I drew him a picture.
I'm thinking of them, you might have to change the route going into Fitch, not the way it is now. Just so that the buses could drop off and not have to go cut through other buses to get over to the middle school. I perfectly understand what Liz is saying, which sounds complicated.
Well, I guess that's going to be what keeps Tom up at night is
Yeah.
whether we can get
And Sam.
And Sam.
to get that to kind of happen in a way that makes sense. I'm just going to encourage people that as we have questions or whatever, because I believe we're going to be putting this on the agenda for the board to vote for us going to a two-tier busing system, which then changes the hours of our school day. So whatever information people need to have in order to be able to make a decision that makes sense to them, ask away. That's why we really wanted to leave as much time for today for all these questions to kind of do. But I do understand that sometimes questions don't come until later, but please make sure that you get them to Susan or Phil so that they can then get to the right person to get answered so that we can get that back. And Susan, I ask that in your board notes, if there are questions and we do find answers, can that be put into
Yes.
the board notes so that as we read and prepare and prep for our meeting on Monday, we have a sense about what that is.
Yep. Great idea. FAQs.
Well, I have a question that I'd like answered as soon as possible. How many students, middle and high school, are you planning to have on a bus? Like, what is the break point? Right now they're very, the high school buses are very empty, but is there a range of students you expect to have on these buses?
Yeah, so our target is roughly 66% utilization. And again, that's just students, assigned to the bus, not how many students actually show up to ride the bus. But I'm hopeful that by the end of this week, we'll actually have definitive numbers on how many students are assigned to each bus. So our target's about 66%, but I'm hopeful that by next Monday's meeting, I'll be able to provide you kind of with an overview of what TransFinders come up with for those routes. And we'll be able to talk about specific buses and how they're utilized.
Well, it'd be great to have that way before Monday, before a vote. As soon as you get that information, I think it's very important for board members and the public to know.
And for the public that actually have questions as well, to make sure that they also get it so that, because you might be having questions, and this is not a public comment meeting, but if you have questions, please make sure that they get directed to Susan so that then once again, frequently asked questions. And I'm sure Phil would also entertain those questions as well.
Kim,
Liz?
if we have a suggestion for like the times, I've had, like I said, I've had a lot of conversation about the start times at the high school, a lot. And so if can I send suggestions to look at? Because even a 5-minute difference may not sound like a lot, but it is. And so Tom, maybe I'll send you and Susan and Kim, of course, I'll put everybody on copy. How's that? Because I've had a lot of people, I'm like more than my hands, no fingers on my hands, have really expressed an extreme concern about the start time and the ending time, especially at the high school, given the situation with teams and doing this whole deal of the regionalization and being able to meet those obligations. So I'm just going to put an email out with, what I've gotten as feedback.
Are they mostly staff members, Liz, or are they parents?
Parents.
Oh, parents.
A lot of parents.
So I guess that is a frequently asked question, because I think all of us have gotten some version of that. So maybe that needs to be dealt with and talked about as much as possible. You've got music programs, you got sports programs, you got other after school activities and clubs. How does that impact that? That probably would be useful for us.
I really would like to hear from the high school parent personally.
Right.
And I know about tonight. I know. But how about if I just put that out and then maybe we can have the high school come next week?
I mean, couldn't we delay this vote to July? I mean, not to the end of July when we have but we can always have a special meeting.
We could always have a special meeting, you're right.
Because this seems awfully rushed and there's so many unanswered questions and some parents are just finding out about it. So.
Well, it hasn't been publicly really showcased because I really wanted the board to have a thorough understanding before I ever mentioned it. I mean, people who have come to these meetings and you know how word gets around. So I think that's a great idea to be able to, if I can bring some high school folks to the table next week, and we can always put the vote on a special meeting because there still might be questions after that. So what do you think, Kim? Okay.
Absolutely. I don't want anything to be rushed. We can't wait for a long period of time.
No.
But and the other part too, Rita, is that they just got the report, so it's not like they've been hiding it. And
I know that. Yeah.
So
that's why I felt we need more time because we haven't seen it
right.
And this is also a very important time coming back from COVID, and there are probably going to be a lot of issues that we need to hear. So
one of the points that was brought up at my central office meeting today was because we have had the hybrid and remote, that our schedules kept changing all year. So if we go back, we want something that we can go back and kind of stick to for a while. So if this is a decision that is really what we need to do in order to carry this out, I'd rather have it start in this upcoming year rather than delay it and start a different way and then change it on them again, because they've been through a lot of changes this year.
Okay, so I feel really comfortable with us having at least one more conversation with some more frequently asked questions where we don't have to take a vote. And then next week as a board, we can make a decision about when we want to have, what other information we need to have in order to go forward on a vote. How does that sound like that's fair?
Yep. Yes. Kim, awesome. I have a question. So we are not having, and I think the general public really needs to know that we're not having our meeting on the 4th Monday in June, but it's moved up to next week, right?
That's right.
That's correct, ma'am.
Right. So, I mean, I just want to make sure all parents understand if they have questions to get them into us, and that there is no meeting on June 28th.
I did not know that.
Oh,
I did not either.
Oh, it's on the calendar.
Oh, I
and
see
then
that,
we also got a message.
I don't know why we have canceled our COW and why we have canceled the regular board meeting. I know I saw it, but why did we do it?
That's
That's
a
all.
Robert's rule that because we were going to, the 21st would be another committee of the whole, and the 28th would be regular board meeting. You have to kind of cancel to move the Board of Ed meeting. You have to cancel the first one because it's on a different date. You have to make it a special meeting. It's just kind of following Robert's rules.
Well, I guess I didn't know that.
I'm sorry, Rosemary.
Why did we have to cancel the 28th?
Because I'm on vacation and I need to be
Oh,
here with you.
God, take us
Yeah.
with you.
I promised you I would balance things, so I'm going to the Jersey Shore.
Good.
And
That's
I
great.
really felt like this is such an important topic. I would
Yeah.
rather delay the vote and make sure we get all the information to the board in the right way.
And then in the summer, we have fewer meetings also. We don't have 3 committee. We have a committee of the whole and a regular board meeting.
Right. And that's going to be different from last year, but that even though we never met in person, we had a lot of meetings specifically for the search and stuff like that. But we'll have Mary come in also for a retreat. So we are going to have some other meetings.
We are going to have some
separate into it.
retreats.
We don't know when that is either, right?
No, that was all on the calendar. We've sent it out multiple times in the update. So I'll make sure Joyce sends it out again. She sent
No,
emails and
not when the retreat will be.
when the retreat will be. Yes,
Yes.
I
we
was
have
not
sent
told.
that out.
Right.
There's
So
a date in July and then there's a date in August.
I was not told that.
okay, so we're going to move on. If there's no more questions about the trans finder, I keep on want to say like transformers and like have us all turn into like, the big bumblebee or something like that, which would be kind of fun. I think. I've always had fantasies about that. Never mind. We're going to go on. And so, Jay, I don't know if you want to, I think I now realize that that's actually not live Jay, oh, there's the live Jay. And so our next thing is the tuition for out of town students. And I don't know if you and Ken, how you want to do the dance, but it's on for the two of you. And thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Sam.
Oh, there Sam is. Thank you, Sam.
I love your tail.
So Ken did the heavy lifting on this, but if I could just quickly introduce the fact that we have had questions about families from out of town that wanted to send their students to Groton. And as those of you that have been on the board for a while recall, every budget season we talk about this for many, many years. And so we thought maybe it was time to take a look and determine what would be a tuition rate that would be in line and be competitive for those people who want to come to Groton. Now, of course, that would be up to Susan how many would come. We're obviously going to be using capacity. And just to be clear, the money goes to the town, but being good stewards, we would, still want to market that, to make sure that the town is getting the money. But by the same token, we realized that every time you add a student, it doesn't automatically increase the budget by the amount of the average student tuition. And so keeping that in mind, Ken has now come up with this plan that I think brings us better into line. Not that we're going to get hundreds of students, but for those that are interested, that we have a tuition that's sort of in line with other schools at our tier. So,
Jay, is it your hope that next week we would be voting on this tuition stuff?
well, I would like to see us, give those who are interested enough time. And again, I'm not saying that there's going to be this huge number of people, but I'm told that there have been inquiries over the years and that the price has just not been in line. And we do have space in some of our classes. It would be nice to, bring some of those class sizes up. And if it can produce more income for the town, then it could be a win-win. And so that being said, like I said, Ken, I think, has come up with a really good plan. Just another side note, we had talked about if someone were a taxpayer in Groton, and for example, their grandchildren were to come in, could we give them sort of an additional discount? Or could we offer discounts to military families? But Susan has talked to the board attorney about that, and there are complications that I really don't think we can move forward on that at this time.
Jay, thank you for your leadership on this.
Well, I'll share the schedule that we were working on here. Let's see. Oh, did that work? It doesn't look like
Yes, it did.
Did it?
Yes.
Yep, proposed
Okay.
tuition. I see in
Oh,
yellow.
very good. Okay,
Yep.
so that first column is our cost per pupil, and that's actually what our tuition rates are right now, because that's what we based our tuition on in the past. I'll skip over that column that's in yellow for a second, and then we also took a look at some of the surrounding schools and districts, just to get an idea of what their tuition rates were, and you'll see we have Lyme, Old Lyme, Stonington, Ledyard. They're a little bit of a different animal just because of the VOAG, but we've got that. We've got the NFA, St. Bernard's, and the Williams School in the end. And so you'll notice that for NFA and St. Bernard's, their high school rate is around 13, between 13,375 to 13,700. And so that was kind of where we were hoping we could be a little more competitive. If we go back to this yellow column, what we did was we kind of took a look at our cost per pupil, and to Jay's point, to add another student doesn't add the cost per pupil, because we don't have to hire all the teachers. We have the teachers in place. And so what we did was we applied an 85% to that cost per pupil. For instance, on the high school line, 9 to 12, that brought it to 13,695, which is right in the line with what NFA and St. Bernard's are at. And I'll just point out that for the IB diploma program, we took a look at what the average cost to the district is. They have a budget of $86,195. There's 39 full DP students in that program, so that's an average of 2210. And so we would propose to add 2210 to the high school rate. So that's essentially what we did and what we're looking at.
I can't see people on the screen, so go ahead and ask questions.
Well, want me to take this down so we can see?
I think you did.
Oh, did I?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
that's fine.
It's not working
You're
right.
still seeing, yeah, we're still seeing you on the screen. Ah, there you are.
There we go.
And again, we're just going to use, Susan will only accept students where there's room. That's why, as Ken said, it's not going to pop up the cost to the district. So we're going to utilize space, that's available in existing classes and classrooms, and just be able to offer that to interested families from out of town.
So one of the ways that we kind of had our first taste of this was with a special needs student who was very successful in one of our programs, and the family moved. And so they wanted the child to continue. I think he was going to be a 5th grader. And so we looked at what would be the cost for the para and for the extra additional special ed cost. And we added that to the base tuition. And then the family brought that to the town, or they had that paid for in some way. I think they had some specialized programming and they got that paid for. But it was something that they really wanted to happen. So know that with special education students, we would just have to analyze what services they needed per their IEP, so that we put that cost in so it wouldn't cost the town. It basically would be the family making that choice to go to this private public school, in the next town over or wherever. And then the funds would come directly to the town, not to the school district. Like impact aid, for instance, goes directly to the town. And it offsets some of the cost of education. But, you know, I think Jay's point of being good stewards of money, that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of how we look at this.
Rita?
Ken, you had an increased tuition cost for IB students, is that correct?
Yeah.
I don't agree with that, only because the class sizes are so small to begin with. And it's not as if they'd be taking a seat away from a regular high school student. So, and I think one of the reasons why a parent might want to come to Fitch's for the IB program, I would have that be the same as at the regular high school. Unless they were taking up, a seat in a class that had 25 students, but those classes are so small that to me, you would want more people to be in them. And if someone wanted to pay for IB, I don't agree with making it more money for high school. That's just my thought on it.
It's a good thought, Rita.
Thank you.
You know, it is
Just
a good
know that
thought.
with more students, that IB cost does go up. There's a certain base amount that we have to pay for IB, but then the pupil tests and some of those additional costs do come.
And that's something that could be addressed, because that might be the parents could pay for the IB tests. Like if we've gone through this a number of times, but that scenario, if we do have a student from another district, the parents could pay for the additional cost for the test. We've already, we're paying for the cost to train the teachers in the IB. That's all done. So whether you have another body sitting in that classroom, they would just sit there knowing that they pay for their own exams or any other increased expenses. Yeah.
I know that Ted Kelleher, as principal, has seen lower numbers in both AP and IB and is concerned. So he really asked all his department chairs to start tapping kids and teachers on shoulders and saying, we need to encourage kids that you can do this.
Yes.
Either way. And I love his idea about adding UConn credit to both of those. So you could be an AP, you can take the test, you can get those credits, but you can also at the same time get the UConn credits. And same thing with IB, which is wonderful for families. If a student has gone through and taken 3 to 5 courses like that, and times 3 credits, for college credits, that's amazing to go into freshman year, sometimes almost finishing the first semester, Yeah.
But the other thing is teachers have to be willing to go to UConn for a few weeks in the summer and become accredited to be in the UConn program. And not all teachers want to do that, even if they are teaching an AP or an IB course. So that's another factor that they have to take.
Right.
I think when my daughter was at Fitch, she received 8 credits from UConn for calculus 1 and 2. But then after that, like when our younger son went through, the calculus teacher did not go to UConn. So it wasn't a UConn course any longer. So it all has to do with the staff also.
Right. Well, and I think I had mentioned that the National Institute of Math and Science is offering free training for the teachers with a stipend.
Wow.
And so we're trying to get that rolling. And we put a posting out, and I'm going to be looking at that with Lori. And then we're also, through the ESSER grant, going to also support their teachers with embedded coaching throughout the year. So I'm looking forward, and because AP hasn't had that training in a while, unless they're brand new. So we could look at UConn courses in the same way if that needs to happen. I take your point. It's really important.
Yeah,
we want that continuous training of our teachers for all levels.
Right.
Is there merit to what? That's not the word I want, Rita, but that's Does the board want to have a discussion about not charging the IB that way?
I do. Because honestly, you have the resources and the teachers and stuff, but if we're going to do it for IB, then you need to do it for CP, you need to do it for AP, because all that training is there, whether you're an AP teacher, IB teacher, UConn ECE teacher, there is multiple levels of training. And I think honestly, I was thinking about what you were saying, and I'm like, yeah, this is, if we charge if our tuition for out of district people who want to come to the high school for an IB class, and or are we going to limit them that they can only come as they're an IB diploma? Are we going to open up? There's a lot of ifs here that I'm really feeling a little insecure about adding an additional $2,200 on. So that's, and maybe I don't think I said this clear enough, and maybe I didn't say it at all when we were talking about this, Jay and Ken, and I apologize, but I've been thinking about it. And I just really think that part of the solution is let's charge that flat rate. And then when the tests come in, if somebody is going to test, then if they're out of towners, then they need to pay for the test. That's something that the taxpayers pay for, the Groton citizens, the Groton residents, excuse me. But if you're not a Groton resident, then you need to pay for your test. And the other thing is Susan, I don't remember, I didn't think our discussion at the curriculum committee was about the connection of a lot of IB and AP and UConn ECE, because IB is so different from that UConn stuff. I'm going to caution us to be very careful that we don't lose our accreditation or be questioned on our accreditation for IB by trying to be the master of and meshing all of this stuff together. And that concerns me greatly. And so I want to make sure that we're not shortchanging our kids by lumping this together. I've seen that happen, and it's not successful. We have to be good stewards for our kids on their curriculum.
So the staff members that are working on it are Amy McKenna and Kelly Donovan.
Right.
So they both are kind of experts on each. So they're working together to make sure that it's aligned.
Great. I just want to make sure that it comes to the curriculum committee, and we have that information.
Thank you, Liz. Actually, really good. That was off topic, but very, very poignant in terms of what you were talking about, and it does tie into the tuition. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it does.
Jay.
So I think in my mind, students don't have to take the test in AP, but they have to in IB.
No.
It's my understanding. If you're going to get the diploma program.
Well, if you want to get the diploma, you have to take it.
They have to get it.
You have to take the test. Diploma. So I just don't know how Groton taxpayers would feel about paying for the out-of-town testing fees for the IB. So maybe we can compromise in the middle. But I mean, so you told me I'm wrong. I mean, am I correct? If you're in the IB diploma program, testing is mandatory.
If you are going for the diploma. If you choose just to take the classes, you don't, it's just like an AP. If you choose to take
so if we can determine what the testing fees are, maybe we can meet in the middle. So
or the parent, the out-of-town student pays for the test if they want the diploma.
That's right. We can come back with that. Ken and I will we'll do a deep dive and figure that out for you.
And Jay,
what are those costs that are those things that families could take care of so that they didn't do the flat fee?
And Jay, just a roundabout figure, a few years ago, about 10 years ago, the cost was $67 per test. That was for IB. All right, just to give you an idea of where to start. I don't know where it's at now.
Good discussion, guys. So what I'm hearing saying is that we're going to actually kind of, one of the things that we're going to, that Susan and Ken are going to look at is doing the flat fee, but then adding, if people are choosing to do the diploma or the AP from out of town, that it's their cost added on to whatever the flat fee. Is that?
For the assessments.
Yeah. Is that how everyone else is hearing it?
Are we paying still for the AP exams? I thought they changed that a little bit.
Students pay for AP exams currently.
Yeah,
Students
that's,
pay?
yes.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
that's why we have to still have this discussion about IB and AP exams, because to me, it just does not seem fair. AP exams are more expensive. So, yeah, and for a while
But
we did
remember,
pay for
Rita,
them.
But remember, Rita, AP exams, it's one exam, whereas
Right.
IB has 4.
But there are a lot of AP students that take 4 and 5. You can take 4
Yeah,
or 5
I understand,
APs.
but what I'm saying to you is like the history, if you're taking a history exam, you
Right.
have an internal assessment and you have 3 different papers. Each one of those is $65.
I see, right.
Okay, so it is 3 different tests, and then you have your internal, which is the teachers do. But those 3 go out, and that's why you incur the greater cost.
The greater cost, okay. But we still, you know, we used to pay for AP and then we stopped. And we just continued with IB for some reason. So again, that's probably something that needs to go back on the referral list, depending on what we decide about these fees. For
Does
out of
that go to
town.
finance and facilities? Would that go to us, Jay? Yeah, Ken? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I think with the ARP ESSER, which I look forward to also bringing back to you in more details, we had our committee meeting, but I know this is off topic, but it goes back to the testing piece, that we really want, you know, to have the equity issue addressed anywhere we go. So if we're tapping kids on the shoulders and we're encouraging them to do this, we don't want the cost of a test to hold them back.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
So
May I
I think
say-
it's something
may I
we should
say-
re-examine.
May I say 3 words, just in case? The
That's
3
quick.
words are Chef versus O'Neill.
Yep.
And the concept of making parents pay extra, you want to be careful, because the parents may not be able to afford it. And now you've got Chef versus O'Neill. That's all I'm saying.
But if a child can't, the school system pays for the test of any student that cannot afford it.
All right. So
That I know.
I'm
we
just
we
saying.
have straight.
Right. You can get us on track, Kim.
I'm trying. All right. Actually, guys, really good conversation about this. And I really appreciate that. And we are now moving on to the review of the referral list. And then I'm going to lump that with suggested future topics. And so I think, Rita, you want to be looking at the AP, the cost of the AP.
Well,
probably is
no.
the whole.
My thing is, if you pay for IB, you pay for AP, or you pay for none. And my feeling is you pay for none. So unless you can't afford it, and then the school system should pay. But that's yeah. So if you want to put it on the referral list, that's fine. I think we should also have the cost of bus monitors go to finance and facilities.
I agree with Rita concerning the testing, only I have the opposite opinion. So this is something that really needs discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple of solid meetings where we have a lot of high school conversations that we've kind of put off to the table anyway. So
Yeah.
I actually think that we should have a couple of decent sized meetings around high school stuff and get our high school folk up here so that, or wherever, to do that.
And I had a question too about when you go into the IB, have somebody from IB, because if now our middle schoolers and 9th and 10th graders are in IB, they don't take a test.
No.
It's not until you're a junior and senior that you take a test, correct? So you could come into Fitch as a 9th grade student and be in an IB curriculum, but not have anything to do with taking a test. So like those tuition fees then should be a regular fee.
So I'm not quite sure where that should go, Rita, because I think.
Well, that's all part of what we were talking about tuition.
It's all part of tuition.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's kind of like you peeled one layer and now we have that layer to kind of look at.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I don't think we were talking about adding on for the MYP classes. The discussion, I thought, revolved around IB diploma.
Oh,
So,
I don't know.
You're absolutely right, Jay.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and I know we want to relitigate the AP IB because we do it every year. And so this is the time to do it again. But we've discussed ad nauseum that we were paying for AP tests that students weren't taking.
Well,
Where IB
I
is
think,
required. So
yeah, I think
But
we
we
should
can
just
go over
talk
that all
about
again.
tuition. We should just talk about tuition rates.
Yeah.
Now, and that's later on discussion, some other time.
Yep.
Thank you, Jay. Other future topics, a referral list. Thank you, Ken, for your help.
Andrea, should we put on the list of the things that we talked about this past, earlier today? Put that on our referral list, like the final and midterm exams or assessments?
Go ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Because and then the middle school art curriculum, and then the middle school PE
Well-
curriculum
Well, I think
changes.
before we do that, I think anyway, you can correct me. I think that we need to have that second meeting with the high school people, or with the people we met today,
Okay,
and have them come back to us and then make the referral, or perhaps we can go right to the COW from there. But I had a question for you, Liz. I know that you put something on our referral list, and I wondered if it should go on now, because I wrote it down and I cannot find it. What did you put on a
oh
referral?
geez, I don't remember.
Well, then, okay, I feel better.
Okay,
When it
no.
comes to you, give
But
me.
it's not, I know what you're talking about. I'll have to go back in my notes.
Yeah, I
but-
can't find it either. Okay.
All
But
right,
you know
so
what? Caitlin is sending us the recording, so we'll have.
you have to go back
Um,
and look. But
okay.
Kim, we had talked about one of the things we're looking at, and Susan was there, about the assessments, and one of the things we were talking about is final exams, midterm and final exams. So I think that might be a good one to put on the referral list, is about the different types of assessments, or I don't know how to word it. Susan, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. I think looking at mid-year and end-year, final exams
Yeah,
and how they affect both middle school and high school. And then the other piece is with the MYP 6 through 10, they're going to do the deep dive this year on what does assessment look like beyond a test. So with projects and those kind of things. So we'll want to be, made aware of that kind of professional development that's going on and what they're starting to craft in the way of
So does that-
assessments for MYP.
does that need to go on the referral list?
It
That would be-
could, so we remember to talk about it.
Yes.
And Liz, do you see that going on the curriculum, or do you see that going on as the committee of the whole?
I think first curriculum, most definitely.
All right.
Okay, and we will have probably some others to add to this next week, or within the next couple of weeks or few weeks, before the
Okay.
end of the summer.
Could someone explain to me what 20-22 admission requirements for resident students under policy is?
Where's that? Oh,
I have
20
absolutely no idea.
Yeah, I was just curious why that is on our referral list and what this means.
Which line down is it on policy?
It's the
The second-
second to the last.
Review policy 5.
Oh, I think
11.
that's just, I think that's really having to do with enrollment and what's required of resident students to show proof of identification when they come to register. I think that's a registration guidelines.
okay.
And because we have this new online registration that that Tom was talking about, there, you know, some of the old forms are going to go away and they're going to all be on this online piece. So there might be some regulations more than policy that we have to look at.
Okay. So there's a policy, examination of grading. Is that, Liz, what you're talking about?
No.
Something totally different than the exact, I don't know what exactly examination of grading is, so.
I don't know what that is either. It was before
I
my
think that
time.
goes along with the grading policies, like what are our grading policies at the different levels?
Okay,
And that might even tie into what, I'll look at it because it might be tying into what Liz is talking about with exams.
right, that's what I was thinking.
So I'll have to check on that one.
Liz,
Yeah.
you mentioned middle school art and PE curriculum for the referral list. Am I
No,
correct?
I'm tabling that now
Okay.
until till probably the next month.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joan.
Has the finance committee had that discussion yet about building substitutes? How much they're going to be paying substitutes?
No.
Has that been worked into the budget at all? Because that is something, you know, we should put out there sooner than later.
Yeah, they've been harder and harder to get. And we have to
Yeah.
actually keep ourselves ahead of the game so that we, you know, reach
Yes.
that.
When
base
you hear
salary.
what Old Lyme is paying, and I think the technical schools are now paying about $165 a day or $175. We're not competitive at all. So just a thought. Maybe you might want to move that up a little bit.
Yeah.
Before the school year
Before the start of the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Kim, I'm looking at these, at the dates on these. From 2017, some of them go back. And even mine goes back to 2018, but we're waiting on SBAC for that. But we can't even remember what these things are. So maybe we should have a discussion about how long, put a time limit on something so that we don't lose
Good
track.
idea.
We don't even know what we're talking about here. So
I don't disagree with you. And I also can remember when our referral list used to be actually like 2 to 3 pages long.
Right.
So we've done a good job at kind of paring it down, but that's a really good. And so maybe if your first thing, Andrea, is the curriculum, review the assessment of the grammar, and you're waiting for SBAC, Miss Joan, if you could put that there, then we know why it's still on there. Lee, when we take a look at the review policy of electronic information security.
I actually brought it up at the last policy meeting. There were a number of things I had questions about, and I don't have the answers.
Okay.
I would like to have them.
Okay.
It was my understanding that we have already done the electronic, but I can't get an answer on that. So and I asked about 9,000. I can't get an answer on that. So, you know, and I'm not sure if we're meeting in July.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
No, Lee, thank you very much. Yeah, the 9,000 is the board policies, and maybe after our retreat this summer, we are going to have some ideas about how we want to, what
Yeah,
about.
that's good. But since I don't even have the dates for a retreat, I don't have that information.
Okay.
So there's a lot of information that I've been asking for. So yes, I'd like to know when our retreats are. That's important. And you know, I'd like to talk about 9,000. That'd be good too.
All right.
So Lee, I'm going to have Joyce reach out to you to make sure that we have the right email that we're sending this to.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure you do, But
Yeah.
I have been away for 5 days, but I
Oh,
have looked at my email every single day.
mhm.
And I don't have it. I'm sure nothing has changed with my address. But if I did know, I would put it on my own calendar. I will. I just don't have
Yeah.
those.
Well, we'll make sure you have that.
Thank you.
What are the dates?
Rosemary, we're gonna,
Just send it out again.
that will be out in the
Thank
board
you.
notes. That will be out in
Thank
the
you.
board notes.
Rosemary and I thank you.
You're more
Thank
than
you.
welcome. Any other referral or topics?
In that case, are we ready?
Yes.
Yes, Gracie.
Motion to adjourn. Say
Second.
goodnight, Gracie.
All
Good night,
those in
Daisy.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye. All
Night,
right.
Gracie.
See
Good
you
night.
at graduation. Good night.